each other so that we can learn how better to use our hands to care for creation and to care for each other instead of to hurt it. Okay? Is that helpful? Yeah. So, kids, today, if you are 3 years old, all the way up to 4th grade, if you would like to, you can leave with Miss Jenna for a few minutes, and she has something planned for you if you'd like to go. If you'd rather stay with your parents, that's okay as well. All right. We'll give the kids a minute to head out. Well, this week's Genesis story is part of the second creation story. Last week we heard, I think the one we mostly hear, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But in Genesis 2, there's a second creation story that tells the creation in a very different way. Did you know there were 2 creation stories? Sometimes maybe we knew that, sometimes we don't. Our minds, we want to know, is it the right one? Is chapter 1 the right creation story, or chapter 2 the right creation story? Sometimes we ask those questions, but I'm not sure that's the intent. God is so big that no one story can contain God and what God does in the world. And so we need more stories about God to understand the fullness of God. And that's part of what we're going to focus on today, is the way that God creates in the second creation story kind of expands how we understand life. Okay? So in the second creation story, the human is created from the ground, and God breathes life into him, and that's kind of like the first creation story. But then there's more to tell. Life isn't complete for the human just because the human's biologically alive and surviving. The creation story is not done yet with that act. More has to happen. 2 things have to happen. First, the human needs to be given a purpose. We hear in this story how God introduces the human to all of creation and gives the human a purpose in creation. How many of you feel like you have a purpose in life? Thumbs up, thumbs down, or in the middle? Do you feel more alive every day when you go about your day knowing that you're accomplishing your purpose, or that you're at least working towards your purpose? Do you get that sense of having a greater sense of aliveness, of having a fuller life in that case? That's God's design for you. The second thing that happens in order for creation to be complete here is that the human is given a partner. Creation is not complete until the woman shows up. Creation's not complete until the 2 people are in relationship with each other as helpers to each other in this world. And I bet we can all reflect on the truth of this, just thinking back to the pandemic. Being more isolated, being more distant from family and friends. Did it feel like your life got smaller when you couldn't engage in all the loving relationships that you have in your life? Was this true for you? So we know the truth of this, that life is fuller when we are fully engaged in loving relationships with each other, and that when we consider ourselves helpers with each other. And so I want you to kind of hang on to this understanding of what life fully means in the eyes of our Creator as we move into our gospel story. Because it's not until life comes to this point where we have purpose and partnership, or purpose and relationship, that then finally the humans are set free to live their lives in the garden. And so take this with, as we go into the gospel story today, where we find Jesus in the synagogue. And this is very early in Jesus' ministry, but he has already developed a following, and he has already performed some pretty amazing miracles. And so the Pharisees have their eye on Jesus, and they're watching Jesus closely, and they're wondering what he's going to do. And it is the Sabbath. Jesus is in the synagogue on the Sabbath, and we know that there are all kinds of rules around the Sabbath and how the Sabbath is observed. We're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. We're supposed to rest on the Sabbath, and when we're supposed to let all our workers rest as well. So is Jesus going to follow those rules? Or is Jesus going to do something different when this man with the withered hand shows up? Is Jesus going to break the rules and do some healing, do some work on this Sabbath? Now, Jesus senses what's going on, and he's going to challenge. He challenges the Pharisees. He's challenging their sense of what is right and what is wrong here, what is good and what is evil. And we get a clue about what he means, what Jesus means about what's good and evil when he asks what's legal. Is it legal to give life on the Sabbath or to kill? Now, this is where we keep in mind what is the fullest definition of life. When we think of all that it entails, it is so much more than biology. It's so much more than just breathing in and out and a heart beating. It's about having purpose. It's about being in loving relationship. So what gives life in those terms, and what kills and what takes life? And the Pharisees don't answer. And Jesus is angry, and he is deeply grieved. What an amazing opportunity this story gives us. Kind of a rare opportunity to kind of sit, not just with what Jesus is doing and talking about, but with Jesus' emotions at this point. Jesus is angry and deeply grieved with the Pharisees. Can you feel what Jesus is feeling? Why? Why is Jesus so angry? Why is he so deeply grieved with what's going on here? After all, the Pharisees are just following the rules. They're following the law that God gave them. I put forth this. I think Jesus is angry and so deeply grieved because the Pharisees are not in relationship in any way, shape, or form with this man with the withered hand. They do not consider themselves his helper. They show no compassion for the suffering that this man who is right in front of them is experiencing. They are placing the rules about what is good and what is not good, what is good and evil, right and wrong, above